everybody, welcome back to The Dive. Today on the show, we have David Morgan from The Morgan Report. But before we get into it, don't forget about that subscribe button. Hey David, welcome to The Dive.
Well, thank you.
So David, after years of being overshadowed by gold, silver recently made headlines and is getting caught up in the Wall Street bets frenzy. What were your thoughts at the time? And do you see this movement continuing to gain momentum?
Well, I was delighted, but my initial thought was it's not going to last very long. I don't think these people have conviction. Doing something in the silver market's a lot different than doing what Wall Street bets did that morphed into the Wall Street silver, meaning, a stock that's heavily shorted and overshorted because of the options market. That's a whole different story than going to the silver market. So I'm, proven wrong, which I'm very, very happy. Further comment, Cassandra, would be that I wrote an article and did several lectures, 3 of them, about what if silver were treated like gold. And one of the more important parts about that story is one, recognition. So the Wall Street silver crowd has definitely brought silver's attention to a lot of people with their billboard campaign, and of course, the growth rate of that Reddit subgroup. On top of that, there's a synergy there, which means like there's more Twitter feeds, there's more Facebooks, there's more YouTubes. So all this thing plays together. So silver is really getting a lot of exposure now, which is what is needed, because the mainstream financial markets never really talk about gold very often and seldom talk about silver. In my 20 plus year career, when silver was the best asset you could own on a commodity basis, I was on TV like 3 or 4 times, not counting Fox Business. They had me on weekly for probably half a year or so.
Very cool. So there's been a lot of talk about a possible global silver shortage. Do you see this scenario playing out anytime soon?
That's a tough one. It's so difficult to know exactly how much silver is, you know, available. It's kind of like the float in the stock. I mean, there could be a large amount of stock outstanding, but it's so tightly held and no one wants to sell it that's irrespective of what the float is, how much is available to actually be purchased. So same thing in the silver market. It's a very tight market, much tighter than what the price would reflect right now, Cassandra. On top of that, there's a shortage for the semiconductor market. And I'm not saying silver is it, but it is a 44 million ounce per year market, which is greater than all of the silver eagles minted in a year, or the silver maples. It's more than what goes into like a DVD player. So it's interesting that it could, I'm not saying would, have some effect in that, but no one has stated that. And I'm just thinking out loud, we will see a day where silver is really hard to obtain, both on the investment side and, I believe, at the same time, or very closely at the same time, on the industrial side. So the really smart industrial users like Samsung have already got a relationship with Avino Mines to buy direct from the mine. Why? They don't want to be short on silver to keep in business.
Makes sense. It's also undeniable that individuals and businesses are interested in and willing to convert to a more environmentally friendly energy source. Is silver a crucial component of the green revolution discussions?
Absolutely. And almost everybody's familiar with photovoltaics or solar panels. That's one. Water purification never really gets mentioned. I mean, really think about it. What's more critical than the water? Air. Air is about more critical, but other than that, it's water. And silver is crucial in water purification. You also have a lot of components that can be used, like in the food industry. Silver impregnated plastics or wraps that no one talks about, even knows about. It's not the nano level, but it's very small, fine, and keeps food fresher longer. In the medical industry, all kinds of things are silver based due to the biogenic properties of silver. It's a natural biocide. So there's a lot in the green situation, sanitary things. Further, to go back to the what I'll call the 19 or illness, it was rumored, and I can't prove it, but I think it's worth a couple minutes. The Chinese were shown spraying this fine mist around public offices, public, subway stations, stuff like that. And it was rumored that that was a silver-based or colloidal silver type of solution. And I wouldn't doubt it. Silver will kill pathogens that some antibiotics can't do. So, lots of the silver green story, a lot more than just solar panels.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so on a larger scale, given the extreme stimulus spending and monetary expansionism we saw, why do you think it is that so many mainstream investors and experts remain unconcerned about inflation risk? What is your own outlook?
Well, my own outlook is playing it safe, which means stagflation. That's where things that we need cost more and more, like food and energy. Things that we don't need, like a larger screen TV or maybe the next generation of smartphone, probably doesn't have quite as strong a market, although that's debatable. So I think that's the safest bet. We will see inflation in a lot of areas, food primarily. That has to do with it has to do with the increase in money supply, but primarily it has to do with supply demand imbalances. And then energy is sort of the same story, but the idea is that the two most critical things to humans are food and energy, and those are both going to go up, up, and up. So people have the mindset of inflation, which is more important than the money supply. The real psychology is what really triggers inflation. It's when the masses decide that the money that they have in their pocket is going to be worth less next week or next month, and they want to spend it in a hurry because they fear what its purchasing power will become in a short order. So that's the phenomena that's starting to take hold now. Once it's turned on, it's very difficult to turn it back off.
Mhm. So, something we hear from time to time is that Bitcoiners are the new gold bugs. Do you think Bitcoin has stolen some of the thunder from precious metals?
There's no doubt it's stolen some. I mean, I have anecdotal evidence. I'll just give you one quickly, but a bullion dealer that I'm very close to, I'm close to very many of them, but in Canada, and this fellow pulled up with his pickup truck full of monster boxes. That's 500 ounces of silver coins from a government mint. And he cashed us all in and bought Bitcoin at some, let's see, very low price relative to where it's been. And then after it made a, I don't know what it was, 6, 10 fold move, he motored back with his Bitcoin wallet and had to fill up his truck about 4 times and put it back into silver. So yeah, it does definitely have an effect. How big, that's hard to measure.
So, we have to ask, where do you see the silver market over the near and short term?
Well, a lot of people accuse me of being a perma bull, but I'm really not. I've called the top in the silver market at each major top all the way up. Hopefully, I'll get the biggest one, which I believe is ahead of us. I think we're going to be trading sideways in a trading range till August. Seasonality is gold's best time to buy historically is in August. It's a probability. It's not a guarantee, but I think that's what we'll see. I think we'll see strength by the end of the year. I do expect to see silver over $30 on the spot or cash market by the end of the year, probably higher. And then longer term, I still think what I've been saying for years and years is somewhat true, which means 90% of the move comes in the last 10% of the time. That's why David Smith and I wrote the book Second Chance, because a lot of people think that they missed out when silver went from the last financial crisis from $9 to $50. And they think, oh, geez, it's at 25 now. I missed out. No, I don't think so. We got, about a 5 bagger in a year and a half or so in the last financial crisis. This time, it wouldn't surprise me to see a 10 bagger. So if you take the March low of 2020 at 12 and you multiply it by 10, you get $120 silver. And I don't think that's out of the question with all that's going on and people waking up to the facts surrounding everything. I mean, the corruption in politics, corruption in, I can talk about weather, I can talk about food, I can talk about water, talk about the illness. We're really getting the straight facts. And I'm not in denial about it, but I'm also a truther. And it's what's the real truth? What's the death rate? What are these antigens that we have that can actually do as well as maybe something that's experimental? I mean, there's a lot of questions, and I've always looked at life from a, don't believe everything you read, don't believe everything you hear, and question authority. So I'm just one of those rebels. I just can't help it.
Awesome. Okay, so last thing before you go, for our viewers, where can they go to learn more about the Morgan Report?
Easiest things, the main website, just go to themorganreport.com, get on our free newsletter list. It's free. If you're interested in the books, there's a book tab. If you're interested in the subscription services, there are two. Just pull down the subscription tab. I took the consultation tab off. I'm just like flooded with enough to do without, and I love talking to people, but kind of disrupts my day. So I put it on pause, at least for now. But a lot of interest coming into the metals, and a lot of what I'll call waking up of people that were kind of on the fence and questioning things, but not sure. I think enough shows like yours are coming out where people start to dig a little deeper. And the last thing I'll say about the Morgan Report, if you go to the About page, scroll down past my face and get to the free link to the movie, The Four Horsemen. That movie is an hour and a half long and well worth one of your days of the weekend to watch, because as old as it is extremely accurate to how this cycle of monetary conundrums happen over time, and where we are in that cycle, and more importantly, what you personally can do about it. So I think this is something that if you have a parent or an uncle or aunt or somebody that isn't really sure about what's really going on, this movie is pretty non-biased. It's just presenting the facts in a very palatable manner from a lot of people that are deep thinkers and respected. And it gives the history of empires. And we are at the end of the age of empire, ready to rebuild and restart, and not necessarily the way that the WEF is claiming.
Okay, interesting. I'll definitely have to check it out. The Four Horsemen, right?
That's right.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, David. We'll talk to you again.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. And in the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, please.